A boy who was kidnapped at age 6 is found alive more than 70 years later. I'm going to read into this extraordinary story from Lad's Bible to you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from Lad's Bible with the headline of a boy who was kidnapped at age 6 and he's found alive more than 70 years later. This is quite an extraordinary story. This is quite an extraordinary story that somebody who was taken away at the age of 6, and 70 years later they've finally been reunited. Now clearly there must have been a lost and gap memory of some sorts during that period, but you know, that we're talking more than 3/4 of that person's life of not being with their loved ones, is what we're talking about here. This is an extraordinary story. And why am I putting this video in a Good News Good Vibes story? Because after all this time, they've been reunited. That's what the extraordinary thing. So let's read a bit more into this, guys. So Luis Armando Albino was 6 years old when he was kidnapped from an Oakland playground in 1951. A 5-year-old boy who was kidnapped from Oakland Park in 1951 has been found alive after 70 years later. Times were tough for Luis Armando Albino, his mother and 5 siblings, who moved from Puerto Rico to California, US back in the 50s. Lewis's mum was picking fruit and sewing gloves to make ends meet in what was a very difficult time. On the 21st of February 1951, Lewis and her older brother Roger 10 were playing together at Jefferson Square Park. But as they walked from their home at 730 Bush Street, they were approached by a Spanish-speaking woman in her 30s wearing a green bandana. She promised to buy the boy some candy, instead kidnapped him and flew him over to the East Coast. Lewis was raised by another couple and went on to become a firefighter and a Marine Corps veteran who served in Vietnam. Although he was missing for decades, his family didn't give up with his mother, Antonia, visited the police station for updates regularly. The first signs of hope came in 2020. Lewis's niece, Alida Alequin, 63, took an online DNA test just for fun. It showed that Alequin had a 22% match to an unknown man, who she was not familiar with, but believed to be her long-lost uncle. When she reached out for the first time, however, he did not respond. Then earlier this year, she visited the Oakland Public Library to take a look at a microfilm of turbulent articles, which included a picture of Lewis and Roger. Wow. After visiting Oakland police the same day, they agreed to investigate. Lewis was then tracked down and found on the East Coast. Along with Alequin's mother, Lewis provided a DNA sample and it matched. And with the help of the FBI, the elderly man was taken to Oakland to reunite with his family. We didn't start crying until after the investigators left, Alequin had told the Bay Area's news group. I grabbed my mum's hand and said, "We found him." I was ecstatic. Sadly, his mother passed away in 2005. And although he got to be reunited with his brother Roger, he passed away 2 months later. I was always determined to find him, and who knows, with my story out there, it could help other families going through the same thing Alequin has said. I would say, don't give up. Oakland police said the niece played an integral role in finding her uncle, and that the outcome of this story is what we strive for. After a 3-week visit, Lewis returned to the East Coast. This is extraordinary. What an extraordinary story. They had no idea. I don't even. It's quite an extraordinary story that's so young. There's so much of this story that I don't that I really want to grasp, but I think part of it I don't think I want to as well, because you wonder how by some miracle. And you really have to call it a miracle when you think about it. That somehow, some way, but because of his life on the other side of America, that somehow that they found information or a DNA test that ended up becoming the same person is just an extraordinary thing. It is quite extraordinary. it's at the same time I'm also a bit sad because obviously the mother never got to see him, and the mother never got to see him again, which is very heartbreaking. And he did get to see the brother, of course, at least before again. But it is quite an extraordinary story that something like that would happen. And as happy I am that they got to reunite, I'm also still kind of sad because there are obviously, it's most times when these things happen that you never see them again, and you don't know what happened to them. You don't know where they are. You don't know if they're alive or if they're dead. You know, that's one of the worst things that people could have, is to have their precious child taken from them and not know where they are, what happened to them. Don't know if they're alive or dead. Don't know if they're doing well. Don't know what they are doing now. And it's very heartbreaking. But with all those difficult moments, there is sometimes stories like these where I remind you that, you know, not everything is always dark and gloomy, and sometimes there are positive light at the end of all of this. And the positive is he's happy. He seems content with his life where he is now. But they got that reunion. Obviously, the sadness is, of course, for me, more than anything, is the mother not getting to see his son again. I think that's really heartbreaking. But why do I still categorize this as a good news? Because they never gave up. They never gave up on finding him, and they found him again more than 70 years later. And that is an extraordinary thing and should be commended, because it's very hard for people to let go. And I'm glad they never gave up. So what do you guys make of this story? Boy that was kidnapped at age 6, found alive more than 70 years later. It is an extremely rare thing, but how does it make you feel? Let me know your thoughts and more on this story down in the comment section below. If you found this interesting, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing, because it really does help support the channel. And I have plenty of other good news, good vibes stories you can check out on the playlist as well. Do check them out as well. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.